Drinking with Authors may contain adult content. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi everyone, Nick Savage here, author of the West Haven Undead series, and tonight's host of Drinking with Authors. And as always, it is sponsored by Four Horsemen Publications. Joining us tonight is Maxine, and whose last name I have three different pronunciations.
Thank you for asking me that.
Rosaller. That was actually one of them, and then the other ones were way off. So I am so sorry I didn't ask you that before, but
That's okay. I just came across a cousin who actually pronounces the name Rosaler, and I'm always correcting people. It's not Rossel, it's Rosaler.
Rosaler. What nationality is that?
Well, I'm Jewish, and I think it was, and actually the wine I'm drinking is left over from the Seder that I had at my house when was it? I forget, Wednesday night, right? I think it's a made-up name. I think I really don't know. I'm curious to know. Yeah.
No, nothing wrong with made-up names. Nothing wrong at all. But she is an author, and you are the author of Queen for a Day and The Missing Kidney and Other Short Stories. And before we get into that, what kind of wine are you drinking besides that it was leftover Seder wine?
Well, that's what it is. It's my daughter brought it. It's Bergamot. Am I pronouncing it properly? It's made with organic grapes.
Sounds good to me. I don't know anything about Seders or anything like that.
What? What?
I don't know anything about Seders or anything like that, so I don't know what that encompasses besides now that it involves wine.
Well, it involves celebrating killing a lot of people and also saving a lot of people and a lot of things that a lot of people believe in.
No. I understand it has to do with the whole Jewish faith and everything. I just don't know anything.
Yeah, well, I'm not. I always liked it when I was a child, and so I have a sentimental attachment to Passover.
Understand?
I'm not religious.
No. Kind of same boat. Raised religious, not religious type stuff. Tell us about The Missing Kidney. It's a very interesting title.
Okay, well, these stories were written over a period of, you can believe, 40 years. They include the first stories I wrote, and thrown in there a few that I've written more recently. And it's really been a wonderful thing to have them in print. I mean, a lot of them were published in literary quarterlies, and a lot of them, I can tell you, they fall into different categories. I'm an autobiographical writer, so a lot of them are autobiographical stories, although autobiographical writers choose to tell what they tell about themselves. And when you're a fiction writer, you make up a lot of stuff. So it's always like a smokescreen. You don't really know what's the truth and what isn't. And the main thing that is the truth is the writer's voice, I think.
I think a writer's voice says a lot about the author as a person, as well as the kind of story you're going to read. Now, in the collection of these stories, which, as you said, have been written over 40 years, are there any that hold higher importance or kind of stick out more to you, I should say, for one reason or another than others?
Well, I can say offhand, I remember writing Ed Milk, okay? Ed Milk was the second story I wrote, and it was very much based on an experience I had, which was very traumatic. And I remember it was almost like the high point of my writing life, because I remembered I had been writing it on the fire escape. I had this little fire escape, and I would write there in longhand. And then oh God, I feel so old, but that's the story. Then I would type them up and then cut and paste the changes onto these typewritten piece of paper, manual typewriter. And anyway, I remember the day. I just loved writing that story. It was such a painful experience, yet somehow I made it funny, because I sort of went into sort of Gogolian territory where I made it absurd, right? And I just was so happy about that story that my husband, my then boyfriend at the time, came up the 5 flights, and I came off the fire escape, and I just felt like I'd just seen God or something. I was just so happy. I love it when I get into the absurd in my writing. I really enjoy that strain of my writing. It's very liberating, I guess you could say. Yeah. And so I loved that story. I loved writing that story, and I was surprised that I could take such a painful experience and have so much fun with it, which I often do. I often write about my most painful experiences, and somehow I make them fun, even if I weep in the process of writing them. I'm still enjoying myself because I'm getting so in touch with the depths of myself and my truth.
So there is a bit of a catharsis or a cathartic facet to your writing that kind of.
Well, I would say, that's an interesting question. It's something I've addressed and thought about a lot. I would say that, some of the most difficult experiences of my life, for example, the death of my father, my relationship with my twin sister, those, I can't say writing about them are exactly cathartic, but there's a certain part of them that gets put on the page. And so then and also mostly writing about my son, that's as painful as it ever was, but yet I put it on the page, and there's something about expressing oneself, and getting the truth out about oneself and one's experience that I wouldn't say is exactly cathartic, but it's very comforting and satisfying, especially when I get it right. I mean, only when I get it right. If you don't get it right, forget it. Then it's.
I think that you have to get any sort of writing right, whether it's nonfiction or fiction. Otherwise, just forget about it. Your book, The Missing Kidney and Other Short Stories, was on Oprah's list back in 2020, last year. I don't even know what year it is. In 2025, it was on the list of summer reads. Does getting that sort of recognition, because you seem like a very down-to-earth kind of take life as it comes, and we just met, so my impression might be a little,
well, I am very down-to-earth.
So do accolades like that hold any sense of pride, or are they just another thing that you put on a shelf type stuff?
Okay, well, I'm glad you asked me that question. Also, it was picked as it was on the Kirkus list of best 2025 books. It was on the Mississippi newspaper, I forget, Hattiesburg, I think it was, 10 best books. The New York Times gave it a great blurb, really terrific blurb. What can I say? I want a full review in the New York Times. And, I feel like, and also I can say also that I was in my 60s when my first novel was published, my first book was published. And I think that it was a little late for me to feel that kind of excitement and the pride one feels when one is young. It's almost like the ego has gone out the window and it's all about the work. And so, of course, it was good and it was great to see that. But I still, Kirkus, the Kirkus review said that I was, okay, so this sort of encapsulates what I'm saying. It said, the best short story writer you've never heard of. So there you go, talking about a backhanded compliment, right? So, no, it doesn't thrill me. I think what thrills me is when I get something right, when I'm writing it. That's really the most satisfaction. But that doesn't mean I don't want to get the kind of recognition I feel I deserve. And so that's where it's at. So it's interesting. It just really, it's like, as I just wrote, I had a character writing in the story that I'm writing, life is a dead person, was saying like life is wasted on the people who are alive. I forget, I put it in a better way, but off the George Bernard quote, youth is wasted on the young.
Yeah. Life is wasted on the living. Yes.
Yeah. Right. No. Yeah, really. So that's what I have to say. And it's a complicated thing. I really don't like getting involved in my quote unquote career. It doesn't really occupy me very much, preoccupy me very much. But of course, I still feel like I haven't gotten the kind of recognition I deserve. Because I think I do
Understand.
deserve more recognition, actually.
And I think that'll come, you know.
Well, thanks.
A year, you know, like a year, it's been a year since it was on the list and stuff, which in a span of time isn't actually all that long. It took Margaret Atwood 10 years before, you know, and I'm not saying we all have to wait 10 years, but good things do come. So I think yours is, you know, that recognition you deserve is coming.
I'm not,
So
I'm not hungry for it. I just have this
no,
kind of idea that that those blurbs didn't do it for me. Oh, that it's exciting.
but something a little more. No, I definitely.
Yeah, it's not
definitely
like I'm
understand.
beyond feeling happy, because I am
Yeah, no,
happy.
we're not. Yeah, no one here is dead inside.
But the real satisfaction, and I feel so grateful. I feel like such a gift to be a writer, to be an artist of any kind, because I feel that you have access to a sort of transcendent universe, and that's where I really like to live. And then when I get mired down in the realities of life, it's very hard for me, because I really do like living in the world of my mind and whatever I'm writing.
No, a little bit of the escapism into our minds is definitely a healthy kind of way to cope with the world around us.
Another story that I wrote that I really got a kick out of. It's funny, like every now and then something will occur to me that's complete fiction, right? And those stories come so easily to me. Lots of people think that autobiographical writing is so easy. It's not. And I really get a kick out of, like, for example, the story, Men Weeping on the Sidewalk. Men crouched on the sidewalk weeping. And this was just based on something I saw, and I just loved it because I loved writing it, and I loved where it went, and it was very funny. I like writing funny. I really like writing funny. I like writing. I feel like I have to, in everything I write, I have to combine irony and a deep, and sadness too. I feel like I need that mix, because I think that's the truth, isn't it?
Oh, the truth is, I think, yeah, like you're saying, it's a mix of the humor and the ups and the downs of life, so to speak, and that's the truth of it, is it's never just even keel all the way through. You're going to have your highs and your lows, you're happy and you're sad, and you have to be able to write about all of that. But when you write funny, is it, and this is going to sound weird, purposely funny, or is it like is it like the jokes, you know what I'm saying, like Dave Barry style satire, or is it more like the accidental humor of the moment?
It just comes to me, really. It's not something that I do consciously. I think it's just my way of being. I think my way of being is to be funny and to present the dark side of myself in an ironic kind of way. So it just comes very natural to me. There's never any kind of like conscious, I better be funny here, I better be funny there. It just kind of comes out, and I enjoy it. I like making fun of myself. I like making fun of other people. Only certain kinds of people. So yeah, I do. I enjoy it. Sometimes I feel like I should do something else other than write all this. There should be other sources of pleasure for me. I mean, I feel like I'm just too much in my head, and I live in New York City. I should go out of my apartment every now and
then. Yes, but if you leave your apartment, there are people outside.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I mean, there's a lot to be said about that.
Yeah, I am the biggest introverted extrovert that anyone ever meets, and I'm just like, I love people, talking with people. I don't do well with crowds.
Well, that's funny. You're speaking that's exactly how I feel. I love humanity, but people as individuals, I have a lot of trouble with them, especially when a lot of them just aren't good. Like there's this friend of mine, for example. She was a friend close friend, and I had to stop being friends with her. And now she's actually, to get back at me, she's accusing me of plagiarizing.
Oh no.
Yeah,
Oh
it's
yeah.
crazy.
No.
I mean, it's amazing what people are capable of, and why I love them. I love humanity, but the cruelty of people, the dishonesty of people astounds me.
So I have to ask, and I have to dig into this. This friend of yours, no names necessary. Why would she want to accuse you of plagiarism?
Because what happened was, and I loved her. We were very close friends, but a couple of things happened over the years, and finally I got to the point where I realized I had to end the friendship. And so she was so angry at me for ending the friendship that she felt she had to get back at me. And the interesting thing is, the story that she's accusing me of plagiarizing, she loved. I wrote it as a tribute to her love for her mother, and she absolutely loved it. And yet she just wants to get back at me because it's the kind of person she is. And it's very, I'm not afraid of being accused of plagiarism, because I think there's a lot of that going around, where there's a lot of viciousness going around, I think, but it makes me sad and angry too, but sad, not vulnerable. But again, that's getting back to people. Like,
yeah,
there are some people, I have a lot of close friends and I love them. But sometimes I really feel like it's like Candide, you have to cultivate your own garden. You almost have to live in your own world, or else. And, but getting out, I mean, I really should get out more, because lots of times when I get out, I get a story, something will occur to me. So that's when I get the stories that are the ones that are the easiest for me to write and the funniest, I think.
Or when you're out. Now, when you write, now, me and you are old enough to have written before the advent of Google and word processors. Do you still write longhand and then transcribe it, or do you just sit at it? Like, do you have any old habits that still remain in writing?
Well, I find it's harder and harder for me to write in longhand. And you know what I've started doing lately? Which is interesting, is because lots of times, for example, like when I'm swimming, I swim a lot, ideas will come to me for a story, and like whole paragraphs will come into my head. And then I'll get out of the pool, and I used to write it down. My handwriting's so illegible anyway. And I know that a lot of people, it's so hard for us to write anymore because we're so not unaccustomed to it, right? So sometimes I'll write it, but mostly lately I've just been dictating into my phone. And that helps. And every now and then I'll print out a story, and if I'm going someplace, and then I'll write notes on it on the subway. And I hear, and I think it's true, that it's always good to look at the stuff you write in a different form, because then other things come to you through that process.
Yeah, no, for sure. Especially because if you're transcribing from one form to another, your ideas start flowing again. And you're rewriting what you wrote, and of course, writing's rewriting, all that jazz. So yeah,
and I can't imagine when I think of all I mean, you're before you were always writing on a word processor, of course, right, on the computer.
No, I've written longhand before and everything like that when I first.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, when I was younger, yeah.
But did you type?
Yeah, no, not on a typewriter. I went from long form to computer. So yeah, in that sense, yeah. But I was writing long form first before I would transcribe, because lack of computers in the home and stuff like that. But yeah, after a while it becomes, yeah. But I didn't have to use a typewriter, at least not by force, only by choice.
Okay, by force, yeah.
Yeah.
By necessity. So anyway, but when I think about the changes, the way I used to go about changing and cutting and pasting, and the number of changes a story or a novel will go through, how did I ever do it? I really don't know.
Now, Queen for a Day was your first book,
Yes.
and that was inspired by being your son's mother. Can you tell us about that book a little bit?
Oh, sure. First of all, that wasn't my first book. This was my first
Sorry.
book. That was
I am so sorry.
No, you're
I
right.
was
This
missing
was the first book that was published. You can't
Published,
you
okay.
can't know that. My first book was this collection, which has been sitting around for years. Okay, so that book, okay, so I decided that I had to write about this experience. And I decided that it would be a good idea to have a bunch of stories about the different mothers I knew and also about myself. And so that's how it evolved. So it's not just about me, it's about other mothers. And I'll tell you that it was very interesting. I mean, it sounds like a very self-aggrandizing, but it's really the truth, is that when I got the word from my publisher that they were going to publish this, my first published book. I mean, I published a lot of other books, but they're all nonfiction. My first thought was the mothers, because I was telling the truth about our experience. There was no candy coating there at all. It's really about the trials and tribulations, the heartbreak of being the mother of a child with a disability, and the lives of these women, and these women who are characters unto themselves, but whose lives have been transformed, like my life was transformed, by the incredible challenge of having to deal with a heartless bureaucracy, on top of the heartbreak of having a child with a very serious disability. So, was that cathartic? Not exactly, but I felt like I had my say. I felt like I had my say about the advocate who screwed me, who I hired to represent me and didn't represent me and screwed me out of $80,000, which I later won because I went to, through like 2 lawsuits and et cetera.
Yeah.
And the Board of Education. I ended up, it was almost, part of it's almost like an expose. And then there are the mothers, and so many of us are in self-denial. Self-denial is a favorite theme of mine. And, I myself am certainly guilty of that. I think everyone is. I think that's how you survive, isn't it?
A little bit. You have to kind of deny certain things, but you also strike me as someone who very much is grounded in the truth, no matter how harsh of a truth that might be, especially if you're saying you're going to take an unfiltered look at the trials and tribulations of being a mother who's a mother to a kid with special needs. You very much seem like someone who says this is the truth, this is life the way it is, and can be accepting of that, which makes me wonder, if the book is written that way, do you find that the readers and the mothers of kids with special needs appreciate the fact that it's told in such a way?
Oh, they love it. They love it. They are so grateful that there's no candy coating here. It's all, it's very much based on the truth. And as far as my self-denial is concerned, I mean, one of the things I deal with in the book is that it wasn't until my son was 13, and this is in a few of the stories, that I realized he wasn't going to be quote unquote cured. So that was my denial. And in The Missing Kidney and other stories, I deal with that as well. I mean, self-denial, denial of the truth, right? Because people, and I don't live in I think I live in a world of truth, but I think that when it came to my son, it took me a very long time to come to terms with it. And I don't think I'll ever come to terms with it.
It's hard because, and I can understand that, because he's, your child, and you want the best for him, and the best for what you want isn't, I guess, what is available because of the situation. So it's hard for you to accept that he won't be where you where your mind had set up to be
Well,
when you were,
I think that
starting
I
writing.
finally, I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, that's okay. I was losing
Um,
myself.
I think I finally, it took me a long time to accept his limitations. But what I can't accept is what's going to become of him when I'm dead. And so that's something that haunts me, and that I'm always working on. And I did, and I wrote about a couple of other women, speaking about people resenting what I write about them. I mean, this woman who accused me of plagiarism, she loved what I wrote about her. She just loved it. But then she hated me for ending the friendship because of things she had done to hurt me. And I finally realized I had to end it, not because I didn't love her anymore, but because I had to. I couldn't. It just didn't seem right for me to continue a friendship like that. And I wrote about these two women with love, really, but they, I actually didn't use a lot of details that I could have used because I wanted to protect their identities, but they're very angry at me about that.
If you changed their identities, you are fairly safe, I think, at least from a legal standpoint. So, there's that.
Yeah, well, right now I'm writing a collection of love stories, and I'm basically interviewing my friends mostly, and and they're so generous, and I always twist it around, and like, for example, one friend I'm writing about, she's this real sort of very real pushover, and the end of the story, I give her this whole force that she does not have. So I find, like, it's interesting, the process of writing these stories, I'm coming up with endings of my own, whereas a lot of the narrative is really based on what they've told me. So it's interesting. It's such an interesting process, isn't it? Like writing and not really knowing what you're going to come up with.
Oh, yeah. No, you might have an idea for a beginning, a middle, and an end, but how you get there, your mind hasn't thought of yet. And it's not really until you start clacking at the keyboard that it starts to come out like that. I definitely like the writing process like that.
Don't you find that it's really like the rivers that flow under your unconscious that really feed you? It's like, isn't it kind of like a miracle, the things that come out of your fingertips? And, I mean, isn't it kind of like wonderful and amazing and horrible when it doesn't work?
Oh, no, completely horrible when it doesn't work. But the funny thing is when I'm writing, I'm in a completely different state of mind than when I'm not. And I'll read stuff, like I'll be done with my manuscript and I'll send it to my editor, and then I'll get it back, and the longer it takes to get it back, the less I remember. So I'll be reading it, and I'll read something that clearly I wrote, and I'll start laughing, and I'm just like, why? I'm like, I don't remember writing this, or because it was either so absurd or just so funny. And I'm like, I don't remember this at all. But it's that state of mind that I'm in that is just, it takes over. And I'm sure that it does the same for you. Where
well, do you find, like, for you, I was wondering about this because I was speaking to some artist friends of mine. Like, I went to this opening, right? And, there were like little bits in the painting that were funny. And I said, oh, you must have had so much fun with that. And the artist said, oh, no, it's torture. And, and I would say that for me, I mean, of course, I know torture. No writer doesn't know the torture. Yeah. But when it's going well, it's my only source of peace, certainly my major source of peace. Do you feel that way?
I do. I feel like for any writer worth their salt, we expect and embrace the torture that comes with the territory and the act of writing, because without the torture, whether it's temporary or not, without the torture, there's nothing of substance to build upon. The torture that sets the grounds ablaze, fertilizes the soil, some metaphor there, blah, blah, blah. Forests grow from it. You know what I'm saying? But you need that torture, because when the torture ends and you embrace it and you make it work for you, the thoughts that come out onto the page tend to be the more brilliant of the works that you write.
Yeah, it's definitely a process, and some things come out much more easily than others.
Oh yeah.
And it used to take me so long to write a story. It's been a while, but I don't want to give it a kinahara, as the Jews say. That, like, I don't want to like jinx it. But lately, it's been coming pretty easily. But I know that it's going to come. The torture is going to be there. How am I going to deal with it? How am I going to deal with it? I guess it's just something that everyone has to every artist has to deal with in one way or another. And the thing is, it's almost just releasing the unconscious. And
Oh yeah.
sometimes I feel like the conscious mind, and that there's such a pleasure in that comes when crafting the language and crafting, the sentences and the paragraphs and the organization. But the torture comes from getting the project off the ground, right?
Oh yeah.
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 And
No.
sometimes it's all in you. Like a lot of times, I wonder if you feel this way. Sometimes I feel like it's all there, right? And it's too much to actually put down. And how am I going to get from digging it out of my brain and putting it on the page? And that's the whole other process that's involved. Yeah.
Oh yeah. The worst that happens to me, the worst thing that happens to me is when I get this great idea and I'm caught up in my own head and I'm like mulling over this thing that I'm like, this is great. And then I start workshopping it in my head. And then it switches, like a switch flips in my head. I'm like, oh, I have to write this down or record it or do something so it's documented. And as soon as it switch flips, it says, I need to write it down. Everything that was just in my head is gone.
Yeah, no, it's like that because you know what it is? It's because it's all there. It's so overwhelming. It's like your entire life, metaphorically, to put down on the page. So it's all there in your mind, but then you have to make the transformation. And that's where you have to get into the rivers that flow beneath the rivers of your consciousness.
Oh,
and
yeah.
That's where the pleasure is. But that's what you have to break through. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. While we're talking about the writing process, do you have a name or a title in mind, a working title for the next book you're working on with the love stories, or not yet?
Well, I don't know. I don't really know. I don't really know. I mean, it's, what can I say? I'm a dark writer with a ironic perspective, and I like to be funny. But all these stories are going to be broken hearts, right? So it could be broken hearts. I don't really have. I have what are the titles of some of my stories? The stories I've written so far. My Still Broken Heart. That's one of them. The Old Woman in the Cafe. That's another. Crazy Love. That's another. Not a very original title, but it was very crazy love.
Yeah.
So I'm having a lot of fun with those stories. But I think one of the reasons they're so easy to write is because a lot of them I'm initially basing on interviews. Although I'll have a few of my own love stories in there. So.
Nice.
And those will be hard to do. And also I'm going to write a story about my parents, I think. And I actually have enough for a collection, but there are just too many other stories that I want to write. So I'm not ready to start sending it out yet.
No, I understand. You can never send out an incomplete work. You have to wait until it's abandoned, as Leonardo da Vinci would say.
Nothing is ever finished, is it?
No, it is not. And that's the thing. And it was something that I learned the hard way decades ago. Quick story from my end, if you don't mind. I was in a band, and the guitarist in the band was like, dude, don't look back, stop mulling over stuff. When you're done with one album, move on to the next, because nothing is ever going to be finished. You can always want to make it better and rework it and redo it. You just got to keep moving forward, which of course was summed up so eloquently in Finding Nemo, which just keeps swimming. But you have to, it's when something is to the point where you just have to step away, that's when it's ready to send out, I think.
Yeah, I never read anything of mine once it's in print, ever. Do you?
No, not
Never, ever. Oh.
As a series writer, I will go back and reference, because I'll have to make sure that what I'm remembering from book 1 while I'm writing book 5 is correct, because you don't want to, have inconsistencies and stuff like that. But I don't go back and be like, oh, today I'm going to read my own book. That's a little strange to me.
No, because then you'll see all the mistakes, because it's never finished.
No. And then you'll see where you want to take other things and stuff. And I think the world with a lot of authors nowadays have gone, oh, this story is about this character, but there's 10 other characters in the book. So now I'm going to write 10 other books based on each of the characters. And I am a strong believer in that supporting characters don't need to be main characters. Like, there's this whole thing with everybody having main character energy nowadays. And I'm like, not everyone's a main character.
Oh, I see. So that's the series. What kind of series do you write? I'm sorry, I didn't research.
No, that's okay. No. I have a modern romance. It's kind of written with a feel of like literary fiction, but it's technically under the romance genre. But it's very Hunter S. Thompson, Truman Capote kind of writing. And I feel like the main characters of those books are the only ones that really deserve their own books. Everyone else, they're supporting. They don't need to have that main character energy.
Oh, so I see. That's sort of like you mean when you write series books, they always, I see. I'm not familiar with that. I see.
Yeah. No, some of the authors will do that. And I'm just like, no, let the other characters be where they were, and just let good enough, leave well enough alone, as the saying.
Yeah, I find also, like, when I'm like, for example, this one story I wrote, I found that it was about a friend of mine, and he used to be a drug dealer, and it was about his boyfriend, who he's totally, very much in love with, and I found that it ended up part of it being about Benji, my son, and me, and my feeling. So it's interesting the way the process of writing. I mean, what is it about the mind? Do you think the mind of the writer is different from other people's? I feel like everyone could be a writer, but I think a lot of people want to be writers, but it's just a matter of having this kind of ability, I guess. What do you think it is? Like,
I think it's the way that we're wired to interpret things and to observe things, because in order to be a writer, you have to be an observer. Because if you don't go out and at least watch life and live life a little, you won't have the experiences to write about. In the same way that a doctor notices symptoms in people, we sometimes perhaps notice symptoms as character traits. You know what I'm saying? Or we notice these character traits about people that others wouldn't. And the way that situations, evolve and affect other situations, we notice as writers, whereas other people who, might be a journalist notice the facts a little, more concretely, whereas we're a little more subjective.
I feel like all my life I've been collecting characters, because I only like eccentric people. I only like quirky people. And my writing is very character driven. And I do find that's true, that that's what clicks with me. And maybe that's kind of part of what makes me a writer, is I'm so interested in character. And the norm kind of disturbs me, and I feel very alienated from the norm.
I think the norm for any writer is an area of uncomfortableness and an area of almost not like a danger zone. Like, the eccentricities of writers are what make us special in that sense, because I've never met an author who isn't a little strange in some way, shape, or form. And that's not a bad thing.
No, it's not at all. And, certainly, we don't really fit in. I don't think we fit in.
No.
But we managed to find our own little corner of the world. And I think that's one thing. And really, the biggest corner of our world is is our mind.
Oh yeah.
And I was going through a period. I don't know what was going on with me, and I was kind of rebelling against myself a little bit because I was saying, Maxine, you spend all your time in your mind. I mean, shouldn't you get out and do something? But I don't know. I guess that's where I'm happiest. So maybe I shouldn't put that kind of pressure on myself. Do you get out? I'm just curious. Do you get out much?
Do I get out much? I try not to. Where
do you live?
I live in Florida, right in the middle of a very touristy, congested area. So getting out of my house can take anywhere from 5 minutes to an hour to go a mile.
Oh my gosh, that's awful.
Yeah, it's a mile and a half. It's about a mile and a half to the highway, and that can take anywhere from 5 minutes to an hour sometimes, depending on traffic. So unless we have a plan on what we're doing and an idea beyond just needing to get out of the house, we stay in the house. We do like to travel, and traveling's fun. But
what's traveling like? Because that's something that I feel like, tell me about the rabbits, Lenny. That's from Mice and Men. I'm sure you know that. But
I love Mice and Men.
Yeah, it's so tragic. Oh, it's so dark. Yeah, I mean, my husband's also a writer, and we're always telling each other, we really should get out. We really should get out. And we live in New York City, for God's sakes.
New York City. I've been to New York City. I grew up in Chicago, and I've been to New York City, and Chicago's a big city. So I was like, oh, I'm going to go to New York. It'll be about the size of Chicago. Yeah, I could not have been more wrong. Chicago's a big city until you go to New York. And then New York is a big city, and Chicago is so tiny compared. But New York and Chicago both have the luxury of you never have to leave that city. You could do something, you could leave your house and go somewhere different 365 days a year and never do the same thing twice.
Oh no, you could go to different countries. I mean, it's I've always wanted to live in the city. My book is very much about the city, by the way.
Yeah.
Missing Kidney, like I really love the city. I always wanted to live in the city. And, that's why I have this kind of identity crisis where I'm saying, what's wrong with me? Why don't I go out? So anyway, so that's it. And I've gotten some really good stories just being out. But I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with me, really. A lot.
There is nothing wrong with you that taking a step outside of the house at least won't let you escape from for a moment, at least. But getting out of the house is a nice breath of fresh air, if nothing else, especially because you live in New York. And if nothing else, go out for some good pizza.
Yeah, right. They do have good pizza. That's true.
Yes, they do. I was at 3 different pizza shops in New York City in one night, and I didn't have bad pizza at one of them. They were all phenomenal.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, it is funny. And but things have changed so much in New York. I mean, old New York, it's just doesn't exist anymore. And when I think about the rents, I was living, I mean, I don't know how people, I guess the economy's changed, I guess. I guess people make more money. I never made much money, so I don't know. But
no, people don't make more money. They just struggle more.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Yeah.
It's the average age of a homeowner 20 years ago used to be 26 for your first time home buyer. Now it is 42.
Oh, really?
Is the average age of your first time home buyer, because it is that rough to be able to buy. I was 38 first time I bought a home. So I'm even on the upper echelons of that number right there. And it's just the way it was, the way it is, but it's hard. But I want to thank you. We are running out of time, and I want to thank you for being here. But before we go, I'm going to ask you what I ask everyone, which is, if you had one piece of advice to give an aspiring writer, what would you tell them?
Well, I would just, I mean, actually, I'm glad you asked me that question because I've read some famous writers. I think it was Philip Roth or something. And it really pissed me off because he said, don't be a writer. And I feel that if you want to be a writer, then you have to write. Yes. And that's what I say. And don't think about your career. Don't think about getting published. Just write what's in your heart and just go ahead and do it. And that really infuriated me because to think that you're taking a person's dream and it was your dream. And look, you went and you pursued that dream and you got all these books published, all this fame, all this money, and you have the audacity to tell someone not to be a writer because it's too hard. Well, no. So that's my only piece of advice.
Is do
if you want to write, then write, and don't worry about getting published.
That is wonderful. And I like that. And I think it's true because I always jokingly say, and I say it jokingly as don't do it, but it's always a joke because I think I say it for the same reasons you say write to write and not to get published, because writing to get published isn't writing to write. You have to write because you love it and because it's what you want to do.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you just anecdotally before, I know we have to leave.
No, you're good.
But all my life I wanted to be a writer and I was always writing for a living. But I had all these stories going through my head, but I don't know if it was because I hadn't yet found my voice or because I had been so discouraged, but it took me a long while before I started writing fiction. And when I did, it just came out of me. So, and I have to say that when I started writing, that's when I found myself. That's when I found my peace. That's when I found my truth. And I'm still finding my truth. I'm still finding my peace and my happiness there. And I think that if you're really a true writer, no matter, given there's going to be the torture, but that's where you're going to find yourself, your happiness, and your peace.
I like that. I like that a lot. And we're going to end on that note. So for everyone watching and who tuned in and listening, I want to thank you all. I want to thank Maxine for being here. Her books, Queen for a Day and The Missing Kidney and other short stories, check them out. Where can we find you? Shoot, before we leave, I need to know where we can find you on social media, where we can find your books, all that stuff, because I completely got so wrapped up. I forgot about that.
Okay, well, my books are all around. Amazon's always the first choice, but then there's a whole list. I have a website my son created for me, MaxineRosaller.com. And then I also created another website, The Missing Kidney, Rosaller.com. As far as social media is concerned, I don't really do that. Although I do have a Facebook page, which has basically been dead, but then I only created it because for my high school reunion, which I didn't go to, but I wanted to be able to see what other people were doing. And now I realize that. So now when I get a story published, I go and stick it on there. So I guess I'm really bad about that. I'm really bad about that. I hear that writers who have that, the books really take off, but I just don't have it in me to say, well, today I did this and today I had this thought and yesterday I had that thought. And wow, that's really interesting, isn't it? No, whatever.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you for telling us where to find you. And I actually did look you up on Facebook. So if you ever do get back on there, you will at least have one friend request waiting for you.
Okay, well, thank you. And I will accept that friend. Okay, take care. Thank you.
You too. Thank you. Remember, everyone, it costs nothing to be kind.
Pleasure talking. Take care.
Thank you for listening to Drinking with Authors. Join us next time for another fun conversation with an author over drinks.